These days, in the philosophy of language, there's a lot of talk about possible worlds, so I'm going to explain what those are. And one of the most famous instances in which the idea of possible worlds comes up is in Saul Kripke's famous lectures and then book, Naming and Necessity, where he talks about rigid designators and non-rigid designators, so I'm going to explain those as well. The first thing to clarify is just about the word world. Sometimes we use the word world to mean planet, like Earth is a different world from Mars and Jupiter or whatever. That's not how philosophers are using the word world here. They're using the word world to talk about the whole universe, a whole possible way that the universe could be. On this way of using the word world, the moons of Jupiter are just as much a part of our world as like New Jersey is. So in our world, things are a certain way. Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth. That's how it is in our world. But there were other possibilities. Things could have gone differently. Mount Everest is part of the Himalayan mountains, and that mountain range was formed when the Indian subcontinent collided with Eurasia. Another possibility is that things went differently. Maybe the Indian subcontinent moved in a different direction. This is like millions or billions of years ago or whatever. If that had happened, then Mount Everest never would have formed. Maybe India would have collided with Australia instead, and there would have been some other smaller mountains or whatever formed, but there never would have been a Mount Everest. The way that we talk about this is that there's different possible worlds. There's the actual world, where India crashed into Eurasia, thrust up the Himalayan mountains, and then there was this mountain, it got called Mount Everest, and it's the tallest one, baby. Cut out the baby, obviously. But there are other possible worlds. In one of those other possible worlds, let's suppose Aconcagua, which is in the Argentine Andes, is actually the tallest mountain, because now it doesn't have to compete with the Himalayas because the Himalayas never formed in that possible world. I'll give you one more example. LeBron James won the 2016 NBA Finals. But he kind of got lucky. You know, what happened was that in Game 4, Draymond Green, who played for the Golden State Warriors, got in some kind of altercation or something like that, and he got suspended for Game 5. And because he wasn't playing in Game 5, LeBron and the Cavaliers won Game 5, and then they went on to win the championship. That's how it went in the actual world. But there are other possible worlds where Draymond keeps his composure in Game 4, doesn't get suspended for Game 5, and then the Warriors win in Game 5, which would mean probably that Kevin Durant doesn't sign with the Warriors in like 2017 or whatever. Things go real crazy. Okay, so you get the idea. There's all these possible worlds. They don't actually exist anywhere in space or whatever. They're just something that we imagine. Unless you're David Lewis, he was a famous philosopher. He thought that they actually exist. We're not going to talk about him right now. Philosophers often talk about some possible worlds being closer to other possible worlds or more distant. I've drawn here this beautiful diagram. I use the @ symbol to mean the actual possible world. And then let's say this B here, this is the possible world where LeBron James does not win the 2016 NBA Finals. This is just a metaphor, right? Like, these worlds don't exist in space, so they can't be next to each other or anything like this. This is purely metaphorical. But here's the thing, that alternative reality in which Draymond Green keeps his composure, doesn't get suspended, and LeBron doesn't win the 2016 finals, that alternative reality is, like, all things considered, pretty similar to ours. It's similar, so we draw it closely, like it's closer. This other world, in which India doesn't collide with Eurasia like hundreds of millions of years ago or whatever, that world is massively different. Like, maybe humans never even evolve in that world. If humans never even evolved, well, that's more different than our actual world than the one where LeBron just didn't win this one championship. And so we draw that world farther away and we say metaphorically that it is a more distant possible world. Here's where things get interesting. We can use our words, our terms in the English language or in any language to talk about these alternative realities, like we do it all the time. I've been doing it in this video. I said something like, in this world, LeBron James didn't win the 2016 NBA championship. Well, there I did it. I used this name in English in our world to talk about some guy in another world. And we can do this with things other than names. We can do it with descriptions as well. Take, for example, the description, the 2016 NBA Finals MVP. That expression here in our world, in this video right now, that expression refers to LeBron James in the actual world. But in this possible world that's not actual, it refers, let's suppose, to Steph Curry. Because if the Warriors had won that year, then Steph probably would have gotten Finals MVP. Okay, now notice something about these names. LeBron James, the name LeBron James, refers to the same guy in all the possible worlds where he exists. In the actual world, the name LeBron James refers to LeBron James. In this possible world, the name LeBron James refers to LeBron James. In this possible world, the name LeBron James refers to no one because there are no humans in that world because humans never evolved, let's say. So in every world where LeBron exists, this name refers to the same guy. It refers sort of rigidly, it like sticks to that same guy in a rigid way. That's what a rigid designator is. According to Saul Kripke, proper names are rigid designators. They designate or refer to or pick out the very same person in all the possible worlds, at least all the possible worlds where that thing exists. Mount Everest. That's also a proper name, and according to Kripke, it's also a rigid designator. And that seems right. The name Mount Everest in the actual world refers to Mount Everest. In this world, it also refers to Mount Everest. And then in this world, it refers to nothing because Mount Everest doesn't exist. But definite descriptions, these aren't proper names. Like this is a definite description. It starts with a definite article, the word the, okay? It's called a definite description. The 2016 NBA Finals MVP. This expression, it refers to a different person in different possible worlds. In the actual world, it refers to LeBron James, but in this possible world, it refers to Steph Curry. It designates, it refers non-rigidly, right? It's a non-rigid designator. It changes who it refers to depending on what world we're talking about, depending on who won Finals MVP in that world. The same goes for other definite descriptions like the tallest mountain on Earth. In the actual world, that expression refers to Mount Everest. In this possible world, that expression refers to Mount Everest. But in this possible world, that expression refers to Aconcagua in the Argentine Andes, a different mountain, the one that would have been the tallest if only India hadn't collided with Eurasia and thrust up the Himalayas. Okay, so that's what possible worlds are, and that's what rigid and non-rigid designators are. A rigid designator is any term that refers rigidly to the same thing in all the possible worlds in which that thing exists, and a non-rigid designator, which Kripke thinks like definite descriptions are expressions that refer to different things in different possible worlds, depending on how things turned out in those possible worlds. All of this goes back to Leibniz, by the way. Leibniz was the one who started talking about possible worlds, or one of the first or whatever, made them famous. Okay, we're done.
Hi, it's me, in my office. If you have a long enough attention span to make it this far in the video, then you might be interested in the book that I'm writing. If you click the link in the description below and put in your email address, I will email you when the book is ready. I promise I will not send you a million emails. I will not sell your email address to spammers. All you will get is an email from me when the book is for sale. And I will pick a bunch of those emails, and those people will get free copies of the book.